Hi, I'm Jo Hadley. This is my podcast, Being a Human Lighthouse. I am a somatic therapist and counsellor. I was a physiotherapist for many decades, and it was there that I learned not only from my own life, but from listening to my clients and treating people over the years, listening to their stories. And often many people treat their physiotherapists like a psychologist and tell them things they would never tell anyone else, and often wouldn't go to psychologists even if they were recommended. So I got to hear people's stories in life on a much bigger level, and also having been a writer in the past as well, and understanding the power of story and history, and knowing that if you want to write a film or a fiction character, you have to know what's happened to that person in the past to explain why they're behaving like they are now and in the book or film. So with these past skills and histories in my life, it's probably no surprise the work that I do today is looking at how our history affects our health and our life, and how it is often trapped within the body as unresolved energy. It can be called trauma, but trauma is a big word. I think this is much more global for people. Most people think about traumas as just being the really big issues or problems that happen to people, but I think we all are on a continuum, with the most obvious traumas at one end, and then at the opposite end, when we've integrated them all, we can access Christ consciousness or Buddha consciousness. So all of us have patterns or beliefs and issues in our life that interfere, maybe not with our health or our physical abilities, but possibly our relationships or our work life or some other area of our life. Everything's interconnected, and these are interconnected as well. So today I'm focusing a bit on beliefs and the power of our beliefs. Anyone who's listened to my podcast before or read some of the posts that I write, I'm passionate about true health and all the variables. Not that I'm thinking that I know all the variables, because I do believe there's possibly, as we're evolving, there's going to be more and more. But there's way more variables to think about than just sometimes what we think about in the Western medical model. Other alternative fields like herbal medicine, acupuncture, the massage therapy, physiotherapy, osteopathy, any working on diet, exercise, they're all parts of this whole health. So they're all part of it. I'm always really interested in what people are forgetting and not looking at. I've always liked to look at the big picture. So as a writer, I used to say I like to sit on the moon and look down and see the whole earth. So I'm passionate about what is missing. What do people not look at very often? Or what do people not want to look at because it's the most uncomfortable? And as I've spoken about and written about recently, going into our body and feeling what's stored there is usually not joy and love and peace. They're hidden underneath all these traumas and patterns. They're the goal that we get to, the other side of the issues and health problems that we face. All these unresolved issues that we've picked up not only in our own lives, but also passed down intergenerationally from our ancestors, and we even pick it up collectively. And these days, it's called ancestral intergenerational trauma or collective trauma, as well as our individual. Again, we use the word trauma. It doesn't have to mean the big physical, mental, sexual, emotional abuse that often people resonate with the word trauma. It can also be that we didn't receive things we needed. Sometimes as children, we may not have received as much care and attention, so that can create some patterns. Often as children, we do develop these patterns and coping strategies because we had to go along with the adults around us because we wouldn't have survived otherwise. So it's really, really easy to pick up patterns. I often used to joke with my clients that our perceptions and beliefs can be formed as simple as, if you're 2 years old and walking down the street eating an ice cream, your parents either side, and you're enjoying your ice cream, and then maybe one of your parents just knocks it off out of your hand and has a good laugh. They may both laugh. But as a 2-year-old, you may just think, oh my God, my parents hate me. They knocked my ice cream out of my hand. So that can form a perception that then perpetuates for the rest of our life, because if you think from it, the 2-year-old doesn't have the adult capacity to challenge that perception, and it can get stuck and held there. It's fascinating to learn about some of the developmental traumas and issues that they're researching. And when I learned about this, I thought, wow, it explained a lot of my own life. Some of the research will show that, and again, this is not to blame anyone, because we're humans, we're all being affected by this in varying ways, in our own unique combinations. But I happen to know a lot about my history before I was born, my parents' history, and what happened to my mother while she was pregnant with me and afterwards. And once I understood this developmental theory, or we call it trauma again, it explained a lot of things in my life, and it made sense. The theory is that if the mother is experiencing a lot of chronic stress and unrelenting stress in her life while she's pregnant and during birth or immediately after, and even the years after, these biochemicals get transmitted to the baby while they're in the womb, but afterwards we are bioelectrical as well. We are communicating with each other, not just with chemicals, but bioelectrically. Mothers bond with their babies. There's also biochemical things happening at the same time, which will change depending on the stress levels of the mother. But it's that heart coherence and resonance. If she's stressed, that will also change all the cells in a bioelectrical way, which then is a field that goes out to others. And of course, the baby, the most vulnerable one and the closest proximity, will pick up these vibrations. And if it's a chronic stress state, then the child can be dysregulated, and the child can have anxiety and feel like they're not safe for no reason apart from they picked up things from their mother. And again, it's not to be blaming anybody. I know my mother loved me more than life itself. But she had a lot of stresses and a lot of issues going on during her pregnancy, and didn't know that she had depression for many years after my birth. Wasn't diagnosed, so she had to suffer in silence basically and struggle along the best she could. So I thought, wow, that explained a lot of why I often felt a lot of anxiety or lack of safety in my own life, or worried about things going wrong. Now, these explain how we are, but we can always change. We can always change our system. We're bioplastic, we're neuroplastic. We just have to create new habits. And what is a belief? A belief is just a thought repeated over and over again till it's created its own little fast track go-to area in the body. So as soon as it's activated, boom, there's a whole host of thoughts that go with it. And often emotions that are felt in the body that go with it. Beliefs are amazing, and I've just been contemplating just how amazing and powerful they are. I knew it in my work with somatic therapy and even with the counselling, we're trying to find the person's beliefs that are contributing to the issue, even if they're held in the body or even if we're just going to do it with traditional cognitive methods. But when you think about the power of beliefs, it's even way more powerful than even the lip service I feel like I've been giving to it, even though I've thought it's very important. I'm thinking, wow, no, I think maybe there's even deeper and deeper layers we need to get to, and maybe there's some new aspect I need to see. So that's what I've been working on this past week, is getting to this deeper layer. I've often worked with clients and told them, given them stories about the power of belief. Like when people have what used to be called multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder, there are people with multiple personalities and identities within the one body, but within each personality can have different physical characteristics, different medical issues, and these different medical issues can be and have been documented. The fact that the one person can just switch identity and it changes their entire biochemistry and medical conditions, where one identity can have diabetes or asthma and another doesn't. To me, that's mind-blowing. It's like, wow, okay, we need to spend more time thinking about beliefs. The same thing happens with some hypnosis. You see hypnotists on TV hypnotizing people to, not just think they're chickens, but to believe they've got an allergy and they can sneeze if flowers are put in front of them when previously they never had an allergy. You can put this hypnotic idea into their minds and then create a different reaction that they would normally have just from the power of that hypnotic suggestion. It's well known that kids have a lot of ability to pick up these suggestions and create beliefs. Sometimes we call it placebo, sometimes nocebo. I can give an example from my own life. When I was under 11, I'd had these warts on my left hand, quite large, and then something that was like, we call it a wart, but on my left elbow. And my mother had taken me to the doctor twice to get them burnt off. Twice grown back exactly the same. Then one day she told me that my grandfather had told her how to get rid of them, and that was by putting some red meat, the blood red meat, uncooked meat, on the warts, then to go and bury it in the backyard. I was a bit on the lazy side, so I put the red meat on the warts and just threw it over my shoulder on our back landing. And to this day, I have nothing on my left hand or left elbow. So the power of belief and trusting what I was told had the power to change something that the medical treatment at the time couldn't change. So, I've had a very challenging time lately, and it's pushed me, like most challenging times should, push me to go within myself and to challenge myself at a deeper level. And I heard a statement this week that it seems so obvious, but it kind of made me look at beliefs in this deeper way that I've been talking about. And I feel like I've just been giving lip service, even though I've thought they were really important. I've been working with them, with clients and with myself for years. But it's like this one question, the way it was framed, changed everything, which only goes to show that with the work that I do, a lot of what counsellors do, with what I do as a somatic therapist, is we just have to ask the right question. And if you ask the right question, the light bulbs can go off. Beliefs can change. Lives can change very quickly. Anyway, so this question was, for what's happening in your life. What must you believe about yourself for this to be happening? And I'm thinking, that's just a different way to phrase things that I've been looking at. I have been looking at beliefs, but once they heard it asked that way, it made it sound so much clearer. Because by asking that, I could see how the belief was like this big knock-on effect. If you have that, it changes everything, how everything just comes out in one big interconnected net. And it kind of makes you trace what's happening at the outer back to the very core. In cognitive behavior therapy, they teach with the thoughts. It's like an iceberg with the top of the iceberg that shows just our automatic thoughts. It's often the stuff that comes. If something happens, we'll go, oh no, I can't, we get these feelings and sensations and sudden thoughts. Often we don't even realize them until we sort of bring them into consciousness. And they're run by a collection of rules that we've made about our lives, like, I can only do this or that, or, I must live here or I must do that. And those rules are driven by the biggest part of the iceberg, which is hidden, and that's our core beliefs. So these core beliefs, and often they're very common, and most of us have them, and they're a combination of, usually, I'm sure there's some more, but the most common are, I'm unlovable, I'm not enough, there's something wrong with me, I'm not worthy. There's a few others, but they tend to be the most common. So yeah, by asking the question this way, I just saw how the core belief could then become like this big net and extend outwards, which was the opposite way to I've been looking at it, from the outwards looking in. And I don't know, it just changed everything for me. It just some visual in my head just sort of clicked. And I found it fascinating. So the next question is, what would you have to change, or what would have to happen in your life to let that belief go? And I find that fascinating as well. And I've been pondering those. And as is usual for me, once something is said to me that's so simple and I'm going, oh, why didn't I think of that before? Yeah, giving myself a bit of a, what the heck, that was so simple. Am I stupid? There you go, that was one of my beliefs. So, I don't have answers for all these, and anyone listening to this will have their own set of beliefs and their own answers to those questions. But I'm going to keep pondering on for how my life is. What would must I believe about myself for it to have created what it has created? And what do I believe I need to do different to actually live a life completely from my heart and soul, completely aligned to my true self, heading ever closer towards Christ and Buddha consciousness? They're my questions. Now, as is my habitual pattern, is to finish off with my short meditation that grounds us, allows us to get some awareness of the emotions and energies trapped in our body, and also how to start to allow our inner wisdom to heal them. This is my healing meditation. I strongly recommend, if you're going to do this, to do it sitting down or lying down, because you want to be present, because healing happens in the now and you need to be present. And doing two things at once, sometimes even walking, sometimes isn't that helpful. Of course, if you need to walk, I've been so stressed out sometimes that walking and moving is really needed, so be it. But doing, driving or doing other activities, I would strongly advise against, because you want to be as present as possible. Because at least walking, you can be present and mindful while you walk. If any unresolved emotions or patterns or traumas arise doing this, just gently open your eyes if they're closed. Ground yourself in the present moment by tuning into any of your 5 senses. Usually feeling your feet on the floor, just noticing what your hands are touching, or listening to the sounds around you are a couple of the easiest, quickest ways. Just bring yourself back to a more grounded present state that's not in a fight or flight. So if you're doing this meditation, I invite you to sit back, close your eyes if you like, and just feel how your body's supported in the chair you're sitting on. Just notice how the physical material world is holding you. Notice how your feet are on the floor, grounding down into the earth. Just notice where your hands are and what they're touching. Now I invite you just to imagine there's a cord coming from the center of your skull, extending right out to the center of the universe, the point where everything began. And just feel like you're between the universe above and the earth below, a conduit between 2 planes. Now I invite you to just notice your breath. You can place your hand on your heart if you like. Just breathe in lower and slower, breathing in and out through the heart area. Just imagine that all the space around you isn't empty. It's filled with all the infinite knowledge and wisdom of the universe. And as you breathe in, you're filling up every cell in your body with this infinite wisdom and knowledge of the universe. And as you breathe out, you're letting go of all the unresolved emotions and patterns and faulty beliefs that no longer serve you. Breathing in, filling up every cell in your body with infinite wisdom and love. Breathe out, let go of everything that no longer serves you. Now I invite you just to tune in to the sensations that are in your body. Are there areas that you can't feel, that feel numb? Again, just be curious. Don't judge it, just be aware. Are there places that you can feel? Are they neutral? Maybe they're pleasant. Maybe they're unpleasant. Just notice them and be curious. They're not right or wrong. Even if they're unpleasant, just notice them. And be aware that the unpleasant sensations in our body are often the unresolved emotions and energy of our faulty beliefs that are stuck in our body, awaiting our conscious awareness so that we can integrate them. Just notice the sensations. And as you're noticing them, do they change? Sometimes they get bigger. Sometimes they move. Sometimes nothing happens at all. Sometimes they disappear. There's no right or wrong. It's just what is happening in the moment as you observe them. The most important part is observing them. with curiosity and compassion. Just be aware of all the sensations happening in your body. You can just shift through each of the different areas of your body. Or you can stay focused on one area that captures your attention. Just know that you're not trying to change it. And you're not making it right, and you're not making it wrong. They're just there. Now we'll move to the third and final part of this process. Again, I'll ask you, if you like, to place your hand on your heart and just take 3 slow breaths, low and slow, as if it's coming in and out through your heart center. Now, as you've got your focused attention on your heart, just imagine, how would it feel if you could live from your heart? If you could be who you'd love to be? If you had a life that you just felt you were living with purpose and meaning, was filled with love and joy, where would you be living? Who would you be living with? What sort of work would you do? Would you need to do any work? How would you feel if you were living your most authentic life, connected to yourself? How would that feel? Would you feel expansive? Would you feel light? Would you feel joy? Would you feel open? Would you feel excited? How would it feel to live the life of true authenticity and be who you really want to be? Just feel how that would feel in the body. It doesn't matter if your mind comes up with any visuals or ideas of how it would look like in the outer world. Just remember that all change occurs first within us. And whatever happens on the outer, if it matches and creates the feelings of joy or abundance or openness and expansiveness or whatever else it is that you would feel if you're living an authentic life filled with love and true to yourself, whatever turns up on the outside, if it matches and creates those feelings inside, good chance you've found where you need to be, and you are being who you're meant to be. A lot of times there is no visuals. It's the feeling that's the most important. So how would it feel to live your most authentic self, to be true to who you are, and really love your life? Now, as this healing meditation comes to a close, again, just take a couple of low, slow breaths. Just feel your feet on the floor. Feel yourself in your chair. You can wiggle your toes and fingers. When you're ready, just gently open your eyes if they were closed. And just notice, have the sensations in your body changed? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel different? Did anything get stirred up? Sometimes if something's a little bit more stirred up and unpleasant, that's a good sign. It means we've allowed something that's been blocking our authentic self, our inner wisdom, to be seen. So being able to sit with it with curiosity and non-judgment and allow it to be there is part of the healing process. And if it's uncomfortable, just distract yourself, or if you can sit with it a bit longer, you can just do some low, slow breaths, as slow and as slow as you can, and to help them shift. And that said, have a great week, and I'm going to go back to contemplating my beliefs. Bye.